Hi, I'm Sharon Renfro. Our hearts and minds at SharonRenfro.com believes that we must open our minds before we can open our hearts to one another, a fundamental idea to an alternative way to understand the psychology of relationships. Now, this means that thinking is the key to successful, meaningfully connected relationships. Today's video applies the 3 steps of thinking to the relationship issue of what makes it so hard to say, "I'm wrong," a common relationship issue that prevents the resolution of issues. Now, I'm going to list the steps of thinking, and I'm going to list items that I think fit under those 3 steps of thinking so that you have an idea, an example of what I mean by using thought to solve problems. Now, the first step of thinking is to research, to gather pertinent and objective information. So, number 1, the functions of our brain are to keep us safe. Number 2, evolution provided us 3 different brain systems, each with adaptive strategies meant to be engaged depending on the environmental circumstances present. The lizard brain, or the emotional system, offers adaptive strategies effective to secure our individual safety in simple and physically dangerous environments. The feeling system, the subjective part of the brain, was designed to keep us safe in simple environments that increasingly relied on relationships, groups to secure our individual needs, and parent-child relationships, which now demanded extended periods of dependence to learn everything necessary to function mostly independently. The thinking system was designed to provide the adaptive strategies of thought, and that is the most effective system in complex environments in which interconnected relationships were essential to confer advantage for individual safety and survival of the species. Number 3, the emotional system assesses every experience we have and produces a simplistic interpretation of every experience as either being safe or threatening for the individual. Number 4, self-awareness through learning based on nurture is meant to keep us safe, to determine which brain system is most appropriate to the circumstances that we face. In other words, we have to be self-aware and aware of our environment in order to choose the brain system that's the most effective for the complexity that we're facing. Number 5, conventional psychology has endorsed a reliance on the emotional system almost exclusively, telling us to use our gut and asking, "How do you feel about that?" This turns complex situations into simplistic and dangerous ones, and is horrible advice in any relationship. Using this most simplistic adaptive strategies, conflict, fight, distance, flight, pretend camouflage, and cutoff, play dead, is maladaptive for relationships. Number 6, making a black and white instant instinctual emotional assessment means that we must perceive and interpret the least amount of information possible. Erring on the side of misperceiving and misinterpreting a threat when none exists may have paid off for the early man, but it is very unlikely to help any relationship in any way. Number 7, that means that being right actually includes being wrong when we use the emotional system, and being right takes on a sense of critical urgency. Number 8, the brain cannot function to protect the individual if it doesn't know. So making up reasons becomes a choice that actually calms us. Step 2 of thinking, reason. That means that we give meaning to the information that we have gathered so that we can come to an understanding. I'm going to make a list just like I did before. Number 1, given the importance and urgency of knowing and the predominance of using the emotional system to tell us what to do in our relationships, Admitting to being wrong generates huge amounts of anxiety. Number 2, this increased anxiety further entrenches us in an emotional reaction. Number 3, conflict, fight, distance, flight, pretend, camouflage, and cutoff, play dead, are adaptive strategies that prevent any of the process of thought, gathering, and process of information, which makes it highly unlikely that we will recognize being wrong, a prerequisite to being able to admit that we're wrong. Number 4, feelings do not help us to gather additional information, but only moderate or regulate our emotional reactions, generally reinforcing our sense of being right or wrong. These feelings strengthen our emotional reactions. Number 5, conflict, distance, pretend, and cutoff reduce anxiety in the here and now without resolution of an issue. The reduction of anxiety makes us think that we've resolved the issue. These behaviors actually inhibit any resolution of any issue. The return to a state of calm limits the need to waste additional life energy to further investigate the issue of being right or wrong. The third step of thinking is reflection, and that means that you take your understanding so that you can consider yourself and the other person. I'm going to make a list. Number 1, slow down the situation. Let your relationship partner know that you need some time to think through the situation. Ask questions of yourself. How do I know this? What makes me so certain that I'm right? How long have I held this point of view? What other explanations might account for this? What do other people think? Number 3, define A. What's important to you about this issue? B. How does your current understanding of the issue impact your life? And C. How would your life be different if you were wrong? 4. Spend some time guessing how others might respond to you saying that you're wrong, and plan for possible emotional reactions to help prevent your own emotional reaction to their response. That stops us a lot of time from saying that we're wrong, because we don't want the playback that we get from our relationship partners about admitting that we were wrong. Move beyond your own emotional assessment of others' opinions and use your knowledge of yourself and think of the most adaptive response that you could have. Now, if these ideas have been helpful to you, you can find more information and in-depth discussions at SharonRenfro.com in our free podcast series, The Psychology of Relationships. Also, please like us so that others can find the help that they need. And thanks so much for listening.